Here we have the Denali MIcro lights, LED driving lights, offered by Twisted Throttle. And we've got them mounted on the BMW F650 fairing. This is the Funduro or Classic, using the KLR 650 brackets, also offered by Twisted Throttle. Had to modify them slightly so that they would fit the spacing of the fairing mounting bolts. And the lights are operated by the AS7 Autoswitch. It's a parasitic switch that pulls a signal off of our high beam circuit, and I can operate it with the flash to pass switch here or the high beam switch here. I currently have it set up for the default, which is a hold of 4 seconds and then a release of the button. I've got my headlight disabled at the moment so that you can see the lights turning on and off. So right now they're off, and you can see that by this red LED down here. That will indicate red for lights off or green for lights on, and during the sense period, when it's looking for the appropriate signal, you'll see it flash green, red pretty rapidly. So here you go with the flash to pass. Now the lights are on. I'm going to turn them back off. And they're off. You can also operate it with the high beam switch here. And if you want to just leave your high beams on, you would just click your high beams on. It would go into the sense mode, and after a few seconds it goes out of that. And now it's actually timing down to go back into a programming mode. It will enter that about 40 seconds after turning on either of those switches. And this is where you could set it up for a couple different modes. If you don't do anything there, it'll just keep on going through, and now it's not looking at anything. Your high beams would still be on. If you wanted to turn your high beams off, you simply turn them off here at the switch. So again, here's the on and off. So now let's program it for the 2 quick presses, which would allow me to just go and turn them on. And you can see it's not set up for that yet. So what we'll have to do, we'll hold this for 40 seconds. It's going to proceed through the sense mode and then go into the programming mode. Once it starts flashing red for the programming mode, I'm going to pulse this trigger switch on, off, on, off, on, off until I see the LED go green, and that confirms that it's programmed now for the 2 quick pulse mode. So now all I have to do is tap this twice real quick, and they go on. It's a little bit easier than the default, because you don't have to count and wait for it and then release the button. However, if you are going to use this with your high beam switch, it's a little tricky to flip that on and off quick enough to get the lights to turn on and off. So again, if you wanted to switch back to the default mode, and again, you can do this with either switch. I like the trigger switch, it's a little easier to pulse. And press and hold that, and wait for this to go into programming mode. So now I should be back to my 1 pulse. And there it is. If I tried the 2 quick taps, nothing happens. Now let's say you want to leave the lights on and shut the ignition off. The auto switch will remember the last configuration and the last setting. So when you turn the ignition back on, your lights will come back on. So if you prefer to just leave them on, you don't have to turn them on each and every time, which is kind of nice. I don't do a lot of night riding, so I usually just leave mine off. One other thing, this little LED down here is really bright if you look directly at it, and on the video you can't really tell the difference in brightness, but I have to have this tucked back down behind here. I can just catch it blinking in my peripheral vision when I'm riding, so that's kind of where I'd want it rather than blaring at me at night. So I just have it tucked up under the fairing. Different bikes you'll probably have to have it hidden somewhere else because it is really bright. Anyway, that's the operation of the switch.